to the second day of Antalya Diplomacy Forum. Welcome to panel Challenges and Opportunities in the Balkans. Well, this region, as many of you here know, has strong geopolitical significance and often stands at crossroads of complicated challenges. Well, these challenges are multifaceted. Geopolitical tensions, historical legacies continue to cast shadow over this region. Well, addressing those challenges requires collective effort that goes beyond political differences and national boundaries. We will try to discuss today challenges and opportunities both, and I have an extraordinary panel here with me to discuss and try to answer those questions. We have 1 hour. I will leave some time for the questions for the floor, so if you have some questions for my panelists, do prepare them. I'll try to be short and I'll try to give enough time to all of us. As you can see, there are many, many questions arising about this topic. Let me introduce my panelists. Mr. Ivica Dačić, First Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Serbia. Filip Ivanović, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Montenegro. Elmedin Konaković, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Bujar Osmani, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of North Macedonia. And Sir Stuart Peach, Prime Minister, Special Envoy to the Western Balkans, Prime Minister of the UK, that will be. Okay, let me start with you, Mr. Dačić. We can look at progress towards the EU as a certain opportunity for the Balkans. Let's start with that. Do you think that this is the best way forward to keep the region safe and secure?
Well, I would like to welcome you all here and to thank for the organization of this, so to say, panel, as you call it. And, you know, I'm not too much in love with these kind of panels from my counterparts from the Western Balkans. And why is that so? That is because almost at every international gathering event you have a panel where we are all brought here from the Western Balkans. And then, you know, people come here and watch us argue among each other. And this is all very counterproductive for our region and for the Western Balkans, because when someone looks at you, you know, they say, how are we to receive and accept these people in the European Union? So therefore, I think we are not clever enough to use these kind of panels and events for the mutual affirmation and defining some mutual interest of the Western Balkans. As you said yourself,
Zapadni Balkan ima jedno nasleđe koje je istorijsko i geopolitičko i sudbinski, da tako kažem, predodređeno da bude neko raskršće između različitih delova sveta. Tu je bila granica između Turske i Austro-Ugarske. Tu je bila na neki način i granica između socijalističkog bloka i ovog zapadnog, s tim što Jugoslavija je tu bila negde između, jer nismo bili deo Varšavskog pakta. Tu je bila Tu je i granica na neki način i verska, između pravoslavnog sveta i katoličkog sveta, ali i islama koji je tu našao tu svoje mesto sa početkom, sa dolaskom Turske. I sve je to ostavilo, a pri tome naši narodi nisu prošli kao, osim možda Srbije i Crne Gore, koji su imali samostalne države, bile samostalne države, znači od Berlinskog kongresa, gde naši narodi nisu prošli neke faze u razvoju kao što su to činili neki evropski narodi koji su
European peoples did go through. They used the entire 19th century for national revolutions and formation of their own states. If we add the fact of the mixed population in our region as well, and also those divisions that came mostly and were inspired primarily by the interested actors on the international stage to influence some parts of our region, then I believe that everybody can have a more clear picture on what position of the Balkans is, or the Western Balkans, as we now have the habit of saying. I don't know if this term Western Balkans is correct at all, because there was a time when you talked about Eastern Europe, not the Western Balkans, but anyway, it doesn't matter. In some way, it is the former Yugoslavia plus Albania. Many people might say that the Balkan was given name by the Bulgarian mountain, but it actually consists of two Turkish words, bal and kan, which means, do you know the meaning? Yes, honey and blood. So this is just now the issue of, what you will have more. I think we had enough blood and now we should have more honey. But then this all depends on ourselves, but also on the international community. So to conclude, yes, the idea of the European Union is an appeasing factor and a factor of encouragement for the Western Balkan countries. This togetherness, unity, and common idea, shared idea that could contribute to the creation of the shared interests. And I'm confident that this is the common goal of all the people in the Balkans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dacic. Mr. Ivanovic, I will pose the same question to you. Do you see the EU progress as an opportunity for the region, especially because Montenegro has been seen for a long time as a front runner in those processes?
Thank you, first of all, for inviting me to participate at this panel, and it's always a pleasure to see my dear colleagues, and it's my pleasure to see that there are so many people that are interested in hearing what we have to say. And I must say at the beginning, I don't know what my friend Ivica is talking about. We never quarrel. We only have laughs and hugs when we meet. So these panels are perhaps a good opportunity to show precisely what he was talking about, that there has been too much blood and too much fighting in the region of Western Balkans due to different historical circumstances, and that now we need to move on to some honey. And for us in Montenegro, this honey, or at least part of the cup of honey, is the European Union. We see European Union as the best way to unite the region within itself and to unite the region with the European Union. I keep repeating that the most recent events that we are witnessing, not just in Europe, but also in other parts of the world, are a testimony that the safety and stability of Europe is best achieved through the unity of the continent. And that unity of the continent is best achieved through the membership into the European Union. On the other hand, the whole process of the integration into the European Union has been quite long. Montenegro has been negotiating with the European Union now for 12 years. So it's quite some time. In 2017 or in 2018, when someone said there will be no enlargement until 2025, I think that statement was devastating. It was devastating for the political classes in the candidate countries. It was devastating for the peoples in those countries. And it was also devastating for professionals who were dedicated to the whole process of the accession to the European Union, because then people could throw away their papers through window and say, okay, let's go on holiday, because in the next 8 years nothing is going to happen. Now we have a little bit different perspective. Last year we heard that 2030 is the year by which European Union should be ready to accept new members, and that candidate countries should be ready to become members of the European Union. I think that this is a serious statement. I think that finally, I would say, European Union institutions and our colleagues and friends in EU member states are thinking in a more political rather than technical way when it comes to the enlargement, and that they realize precisely this idea that I mentioned before, that membership into the European Union of all candidate countries, together with the current member states, is the best way to preserve the stability and prosperity of whole Europe. We in Montenegro understood this message. We understood this window of opportunity, and we want to use the opportunity. In the past 4 months, and I will remind you that the government of which I am the member has been formed on the last day of October last year, so some 4 months. So we have done quite a lot in the process of accession to the European Union. We made many reforms in the judiciary system that were the most important issues in chapters 23 and 24, which are the chapters related to the rule of law and anti-corruption. Those are the most important chapters according to the new methodology, because if you don't make progress in chapters 23 and 24, you cannot move forward in other chapters. By the way, we opened all negotiation chapters, so we are now on the way of starting to close chapters. That is our goal for this year. Once we start closing chapters, then this is the real proof that the process is ongoing, that it is alive, and that it is realistic. So, wrapping it up, I would say that the common European future of the region of the Western Balkans is definitely in the interest of countries and peoples of Western Balkans. But it's also in the interest of the European Union. Because, not just because of safety and security, but also because enlargement was and is the best policy ever that the European Union had. So if it wants to preserve its best policy ever, then it needs to materialize it. So what I'm hoping for is that all the reforms and all the positive steps that we are making, not just in Montenegro, but also in other countries of the region, so that those positive steps and those positive reforms are echoed back, not just by Brussels, but also by EU member states. And after 12 years of negotiating, I would say this is really the time when we need to be united, and it is the final hour that the European Union should be enlarged to the countries of Western Balkans. So yes, I see it as an opportunity, but I see it as an opportunity that goes both ways, for the European Union and for the Western Balkans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ivanovic. Minister Konakovic, important month, as we discussed last night as well on the ADF talk with the members of Bosnia's presidency for Bosnia, as we expect by the end of the month for Brussels to open the negotiation talks with Bosnia. Are you optimistic like the members of the presidency, and can we expect that good news from Brussels this month?
Thank you very much. I also think this is really a great opportunity to exchange information and experience, and I'm really glad to see my colleagues from Western Balkans countries and our friend also, Stuart Peach, here talking about the future of Western Balkans. I prefer also to say Southeastern Europe than Western Balkans, but that's actually something which is actually created in EU, so we accepted Western Balkans narrative. I used to play basketball professionally. I'm a basketball player, I'm a sportsman. Like, you cannot win the game if you don't play to win the game. So without optimism, it's impossible to reach any success, and I am really optimistic because we have really good results in the last 13 years. But first, let me also to say I disagree with Ivica, and I agree with Philip. I don't think this is, we don't fight each other. And usually if there is if someone argues, that usually argues with Serbia. So maybe Ivica is, from his point of view, he has right. But I'm spending more time with Bujar, with Philip, with Ivica and other colleagues in the last 12 years than with my colleagues from my own party. And I think it's good. We created a narrative actually which helps for Europeans to understand that cooperation on this part of the world is possible. We created the same narrative. Bujar created this narrative, more integration before membership, actually, which shows the road for our countries, which our final destination is EU and full membership, of course. But we have many good results because we are meeting each other, we are discussing each other. And also it's important because all big multilateral forums, they organized Western Balkans panels, and that shows that the world, and the EU especially, is interested in progress of Western Balkans space. So, but it's not easy because of our painful history. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, we have a really big problem to sit and to negotiate our European future with the people who are denying genocide, celebrating war crimes. We have completely different views on our recent history. For centuries back, we don't see the history with the same eyes. But also, I can say we turned our scars into wisdom. So that's something we need to do right now because of the future of whole Western Balkans countries. I'm talking now especially of Bosnia and Herzegovina. You have two kind of politicians in my country, populist and nationalist, and on the other side, political realist. I belong to this second, I hope I belong to this realist part of the political scene, and I will tell you a few examples. This part of the world is probably the first one in the world in terms of brain drain, of losing people. In the same period, they are still in power, mostly populist and nationalist, hiding behind some national and fake patriotism curtains and achieving only their own goals. And people are leaving, people are running away. Our economy is losing potential. So it's a time for our scars to become wisdom and to create common future for our countries. We delivered a lot. This is the best report in the history of my country. Last 13 months since this Council of Ministers is appointed, we have 6, 7 European laws. We have program of reform on time. We have Europol. We have Frontex started already negotiations. So we proved that even in these really difficult and complex political ambient, it's possible to deliver. It's possible to follow European rules because of one main issue. My country exports to European Union 70% of our products. Our 2/3 of our exports go directly to European Union. We export 93% more to the region, to the countries, these countries who are candidate status countries for European membership. So that shows that Bosnia and Herzegovina is completely depending, it's integrated already in European market, not on the right way. We hope it will be done in coming months, but that shows that there is no other option for my country. But there are on the scene politicians who are promoting, because of strong political, historical, religious, traditional relations, let's say a part of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Republika Srpska, with Russia. They are promoting strongly ties with Russia, but at the same time, Republika Srpska is exporting 1% to Russia, 1% yearly of their products, and all other products goes to European market again. So we can compare their narrative against German politicians or Germans' influence in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And our yearly trade is more than 6 billion. So with Russia, we export 99 million. You can compare these economical facts, and you can actually tie them with the future of our country. How can we keep young people to stay in their country? Only offering bright future, some new job opportunities, and it's possible only on this European path. On the other side, we are also counting that Europe will realize the main question for my country is not what will happen if we go into EU. For my country and for Europe also at the same time, the main question should be what will happen if we don't go to EU. Some big players, they are trying to control, to put political influence in this part of the world, and what will happen if they don't open the door now, after we delivered really a lot. the best report ever, many documents adopted in really difficult political ambient. So I am optimist, and I think we can do something more before the final decision. We have these days political discussions on the highest level, and I think we will adopt, we are going to adopt 2 more laws, and I think to wait this final decision with the optimism, and then to continue European path because of all these facts. We don't have any other option. If someone can show how can we export, and let me conclude with this. So 0.8 yearly from Bosnia and Herzegovina, our export goes to Russia and China together. Russia and China 0.8%, European Union 93%. And so there are politicians promoting some other idea. So that means that our economy is going to die if we actually don't strongly and really fast support the idea to integrate ourselves into European single market with a lot of opportunities, new projects, direct, cohesive, and structural funds. My colleague Bujar Osmani, he's probably going to say some good examples because this is really great for him to be presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Konakovic. Minister Osmani, I do want to talk with you about the approach that the EU has towards the Balkans or Southeastern Europe, as you wish. Seems like it's all or nothing, especially in the case of North Macedonia, that has already done so many things in order to get closer to the bloc.
Well, thank you so much. First, I'd like to express gratitude to ADF for inviting me. Also, of course, to use the opportunity to say that ADF started in a year when we started our PDF, Prespa Dialogue Forum, and in 3 years, both forums have become renowned platforms for dialogue in our parts of the world, and I want to use the opportunity to invite you all to our PDF meeting this year, the 3rd edition. Well, you know, Western Balkans, and I've been saying this a lot, is a political island within EU, so surrounded by EU member states, which geographically makes it a perfect platform if you want to undermine a system. You use a space at the heart of Europe, which is not consolidated, and you try to create a mess. You mentioned political, historical frustrations, open files, nationalistic rhetoric, ethnic tensions, etc. All this provides a fertile ground for to become a platform for malign actors. So my thesis is that the level of tensions in Western Balkans is directly proportionate with the weakness or strength of the European idea and closeness of the feasibility of the Russian imperialistic ambition in this part of the world. What we are seeing now is weak European prospect. Obviously, there is no consensual political will. And European narrative has been the narrative that has suppressed all the contradictory narratives in Western Balkans, is the only cohesive tissue that keeps us together in one harmony, in one idea. As this weakens, we see these contradictory narratives surfacing. And the second is the closeness or the feasibility of the realization of the Russian imperialistic ambition. I believe that Ukraine, it's only the first station. If Russia is to win in Ukraine, it will go further in the West. We are hearing Transnistria has scheduled a referendum, Transnistrian leaders asking support from Putin to be saved. And I think the third station of Russia's imperialistic ambition would be Western Balkans, because of these characteristics that the region has. So therefore, the solution here is to strengthen the resilience of the region. The only way to strengthen the resilience is to consolidate the Euro-Atlantic integration of Western Balkans. And I've been talking a lot about different models, how to surpass these difficulties. North Macedonia has started this journey 22 years ago, back in 2001, few months before Croatia, just few months after Slovenia. So we were in the first package. Everyone thought this is the first group. And then the history unfolded. As you know, North Macedonia has not opened a single chapter yet, 22 years later, beside being a front-runner in meeting the political criteria, beside having transposed 40% of the EU acquis in our domestic legislation due to lack of consensual political will. So what I've been talking about is that the current approach to EU integration has been designed with the assumption that there is a consensual will. So what we should do now when obviously there is no consensual will, and the entire process is based on this all-in or nothing approach. Candidates have a difficult road ahead, but they don't see deliverables on the way. People don't see benefits along the way. So what's happening? Frustrations are growing. And the Russia Federation never offers an alternative to EU. You mentioned that the market share between EU and Russia. What Russia does, they turn the scan on and they look for frustration towards EU and towards the West. They collect these frustrations, they amplify them and channelize them to reach some targets. Unfortunately, these frustrations are organic. These frustrations are authentic. They are not artificial frustration. These frustrations are caused by EU because they have no strategic clarity about our EU perspective. And then we have this issue. So what I've been proposing is two approaches. One is to introduce qualified majority voting for opening the chapters, because the chapters or negotiations are about our development. So by denying the opening of the chapters, we are denied our fundamental rights to develop. For the sake of comfort for member states, unanimous voting, let's remain for the closing of the chapters. But for the opening of the chapters, we have to introduce qualified majority voting. And second is gradual integration. Gradual integration with three pillars. One, presence or participation of candidates in the formal bodies of the EU with an observer status as they meet criteria. Always mentioning the same, but this is just an example. North Macedonia has aligned its foreign policy 100% with EU common foreign security policy. This is not an easy thing to do, and we should not take it for granted, given that we have 30% of population saying that Euro-Asian Union is a good alternative. And still you have a government going sometime against the mainstream public opinion and having 100% alignment rate. How this makes me different from EU member states, that I'm not part of the Foreign Affairs Council. Second is single market. And here growth plan, I think, is one way how EU has responded to our request to integrate ourselves before membership into the single market. I hope that growth plan will be legitimized through a legal process in European Parliament. European Parliament has only a few sessions before it's going to be dissolved due to elections. It's just a friendly remark. If EU will fail to adopt even the growth plan, which is just a tiny intervention to save the credibility of the process, will be a huge blow to any serious idea that this region will become part of the European Union. And the third is eligibility to structural and cohesive funds. The convergence gap is growing due to, I've mentioned 11 times our neighboring EU countries are receiving more funds than the candidate countries. So we need to reinvent the process, because it has default mistakes since it was designed with the assumption that there is a consensual will. So I'm going to push for these two approaches: qualified majority voting for opening the chapters and gradual integration through this trifurcation, if I can say, or three-pillar approach. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Minister Osmani. Mr. Peach, how did the role of international community changed in the wake of these geopolitical challenges and the war in Ukraine? And what is the future of international community in the Western Balkans?
Well, thank you, and thank you again to the organisers for this opportunity and this excellent forum. I think the answer to your question is that now more than ever, all the international partners need to work with the region for the European accession journey. And I speak for the UK today, but I know many other international partners agree, because that journey is needed now. The geography of the region remains critical to the future of the whole of the continent. And that includes the opportunities through air, land and sea. So ports matter, railways matter, integrated infrastructure matters. We, the UK, and many of your other partners respect your history, and we have been all-weather friends through that history. Many of our panelists have already talked about ethnic division. I think in direct answer to your question, ethnic division has been raised, heightened, exacerbated by the war in Ukraine, by normal media, social media. That's not new in our region, in our continent, but it's particularly pronounced in this region. And we look forward to working with every country to counter that. So that draws me to a conclusion, which are very similar to the Foreign Minister's conclusion. The first is that security is still needed, and the international friends of the region can help. And I have often said, and I will say it again, 30 years after the conflict in the region, we should not need peacekeeping forces present, but we do. And right now, those forces are needed to sustain stability. Which brings us to the Euro-Atlantic part of the journey, which embraces our hosts here and the United States. And they are they're all-weather friends with you. And I particularly commend our hosts here for their role in the region. The second thought I'd leave the panel with, as the final speaker in the initial round, is the people of the region. I've made over 50 visits. The young people of the region, men and women, need more hope for the future. They are amazing people with enormous talent and potential. But they need a sense of purpose around reconciliation from the past and better hope for the future. And then together, the region will fill its rightful role at the heart of Europe and not fall for this negative disinformation that is coming as a result of the war in Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Peach. And you rightly pointed there, more and more people are leaving the region. And if we continue to wait on some positive answers from the Brussels, there will be no one to enlarge with. Mr. Dacic, and let's try in this round to have a little bit shorter answers, please. And for my other panelists, please do engage in conversation if you want to respond or reply. Mr. Dacic, what do you think of regional initiatives, homegrown initiatives? Are they a good way forward in order to keep the region stable and for the benefits of the people?
Well, I think that they are beneficial. We did initiate this initiative of the Open Balkan, where Albania and North Macedonia participate as well, but also all other initiatives coming, some of them coming by the European Union, the unique single market and the growth plan and everything else. This is all very positive, and I think this should not be politicized. Very often we see this through a political dioptry, so to say. But on the other hand, you know what the problem is. The problem is whether this is the replacement for the European Union or this is just an instrument to do something well.
Zašto? Ja nisam ovdje govorio na
I did
početku
not speak
da ja ne volim da se
here.
družim sa mojim
I
ovdje
did not
prijateljima.
say that I don't like to socialize with my friends here
to
from the
postao
region,
manir.
but this
Zapadni
just
Balkan
became like
rešava
a
na
habit,
panelima na svakoj
that
konferenciji.
you resolve the Western Balkan issues
Gdje
at
nema
different
nikoga
panels,
ovdje
at
ko će o tome da
conferences.
odlučuje iz Evropske.
And there is no
Jel ima
one
ovdje
from the
neko ko odlučuje
European
o nama?
Union who decides on us. Is there anyone here in the audience
Znači,
that
mi
makes
dođemo
decisions
i
on the
sada
Western Balkans
ja se ne
region?
svađam ni sa
So
kim.
I
Ja
go
samo
attend the
svakog od vas tražim
panel.
da poštuje
I never argue with
Srbiju kao što
anyone. I
vi
just
tražite
ask
da poštuju
everyone
vas.
to respect
To znači
Serbia,
da
just like
poštujete
Serbia
naš
respects
teritorijalni
you. You
integritet
also want us to respect, and that
I
means
kao
to
kad je
respect our
Ukrajina u
sovereignty and
pitanju,
territorial
Moldavija
integrity.
i
Also,
sve
when it comes to Ukraine
ne
and Moldova and
da
all other
sada
countries,
imate više
and not
principa.
that you have different
reč
and
o,
several principles.
teritorijalni
When it
integritet.
comes to the territorial
I kad je reč o
integrity
nekim
and when
stranim
it
akterima.
comes to some foreign actors,
Ja se slažem da mi
I
ne
do
treba
agree
dozvolimo
that we
ničiji imperijalni.
should not allow anyone's
sigurno nije
imperial
samo ruski.
influence, but we don't have only, Russian
Prosto-
imperial influence to talk about.
Vi koji sedite ovdje
You
znate
who
dobro.
sit here, attend
Nije
here
Ivica
this
Dačić
panel, you know very
potpisao
well that it was
pakt
not
sa
Ivica
Staljinom.
Dačić who signed
Nego
the
su
pact
potpisali
with
Roosevelt i
Stalin,
Churchill
but
u
Roosevelt
Jalti o
and
podeli
Churchill
sveta.
in Yalta, they signed this pact on the
A dobro
division of
znate
the
da je
world.
Tito
And you also know
48.
very
godine
well
se
that in
posvađao sa
1948 Tito
Dok je u
came into
istočnom
argument with
Berlinu
Russia
i svim
and
drugim istočnoevropskim
stopped
zemljama
contacting
sovjetski
them.
šinjel bio do
And you
90.
know
godina.
that
I sad
until
vi nama da neko drži
1990s,
predavanje
the
o
Soviet
ruskom.
troops were in the Eastern Europe as well. And
Ovdje-
now you're talking about
Ili
the influence
kad
of
predsjednik
the
Kine
Russian
siđe u
influence. For example, the president of China
Šta
will
je sad
visit
to, malignant
France
utjecaj
soon.
Kine na Francusku?
So is it a malignant influence of China on France?
Kakva ekonomske odnose
What
imamo sa...
kind of economic
To je
relations do
potpuno
we have with Russia? It is
znate, mi
absolutely,
imamo veoma
we have a very
slabe ekonomske odnose.
we don't have
Zapadne
very
zemlje
developed
koje su
economic
uvele
relations with Russia, but the Western
Imaju
countries
veću
who
ekonomsku
impose
razmenu sa
sanctions,
Rusijom
they
nego
have
pre sankcija.
greater trade exchange with Russia
Pa
now
kako
than
Sjedinjene Američke
before
Države mogu da
introducing
uvoze uranijum
sanctions.
sada i dalje iz Rusije?
How come they can import uranium
Znači ja samo
from
pričam o
there?
tome.
So I'm just,
Ne želim uopšte da...
I don't want
Znate, mi
to,
smo skloni da...
we are
skloni smo
prone
da
to
sve probleme sada neko će nam biti... Neko će
say that
da ćemo tako
all
rešavati
the
neke
problems
pitanja.
will be resolved in
Međunarodna
this
zajednica.
way. The international community, as far as I'm
Ja
concerned,
sam potpisao
I did
2013.
sign
godine
in
Briselski sporazum.
in 2013 the Brussels
Tu je Stuart
Agreement,
Pitch,
and
njegova koleginica
Stuart Pitch
Catherine
is
Ashton
here
Brown.
present. His colleague Catherine Action signed
mene,
this agreement on
Evropska
behalf of
unija.
the European Union. For me,
Tada.
the European Union at
Sada,
that time,
11
and
godina
even
posle
now,
toga.
11 years later,
Nesposobna.
is
da
not
sprovede
capable
ono što
of
je-
implementing
smo potpisali, a to je
what we
formiranje
have
zajednice
signed there, and that is the
Kakav
community of
kredibilitet ima?
sub-municipalities. So what kind of credibility do they have?
90. godina
In 1990s,
je trebalo da se više pregovara o budućnosti
the
Jugoslavije.
future of Yugoslavia should have been negotiated more than it was,
Jugoslavija raspadne u miru.
so that Yugoslavia dissolves in
Baden-Ter.
peace. Baden-Ter died
On je
recently.
utvrdio da se Jugoslavija ima
He-
raspasti pod
He was the
međurepubličkim
one who defined that
Otkud sad
Yugoslavia
sedma država u Jugoslaviji?
should dissolve
Kad
into
svi znate da je
6
bilo
republics, and how come we now have 7
Znači, ja sad pričam
when you
ako
know
ćemo
that there
da
were
se
6 republics? So what I'm saying, if we want to be
Može
honest,
da se princip tumači kako
you
kome
cannot
odgovara. A što se
interpret the
tiče-
principle in the way you want
tiče
it.
kvalifikovane većine,
And when it
Pa
comes to
sigurno,
qualified
Buer, mi nećemo
majority, you
odlučujemo
know,
o tome.
where we will not
To neće da
certainly
odlučuje Evropska unija.
decide on this. The
Ali je
EU
moje
will
mišljenje
decide
da
on this,
sigurno
but it
neće
is
nikada
my
prihvatiti.
view that they will certainly never
da
accept
će uvek
this,
biti konsenzus.
that there will be always
A
a
onda dolazimo do
consensus.
toga.
And then we come to the point,
Zašto Severna Makedonija
why
ne može da otvori
North
pregovor?
Macedonia cannot open
I
negotiations?
šta je radila Evropska unija
And
30 godina,
What
40 godina?
did EU do for 30
Sedimo ovdje u
years?
Tursku.
I'm
Taj što je
sitting
otpočeo
here in
pregovore s
Turkey
Evropskom unijom,
today.
taj je
I'm
umro.
here. The one that started negotiations, he's not alive
Nadam se da
anymore.
ćemo mi da dočekamo kraj.
I hope that we will be alive until the end of the
koji smo prisutni.
process, we who are present here
Ali-
today. But the problem is that it's not only how we will behave between ourselves and how we will treat each other, but it is our strategic interest. You know, I'm absolutely in favor of all of us entering EU, all of us from the region. And the second thing, we cannot agree on everything, on all issues, but we can be rational. We can support each other, we can cooperate. We have no reason to argue on some issues or disagree or argue on some issues who are on much higher level than we will ever be able to resolve it in this way. But we can resolve our own relations. We can, yes, our relations. Until recently, we did not have these payment transactions between Podgorica and Belgrade. In the 21st century, we don't have a highway between Sarajevo and Belgrade. And for 5, 6, or 10 years, I think there's been an initiative by Turkey that we construct this highway, and we cannot come to an agreement, you know, which exact path this route will take. So we do have issues to resolve, but you all here are always some people I love more than people from some other parts of the Europe. I don't allow anyone to treat us as we are the citizens of the second, you know, rate or second level in Europe, and that we be given lectures that we should have our merits. I think we already have our merits and we deserve it all. So, what kind of alternative can be to the European Union? There is no alternative to that. Maybe only if someone doesn't want to be part of the European Union. Let us not speak nonsense about Euro-Asian market. It is not possible. It is not possible to have it here. If you are in the center of Europe, you cannot have other possibilities and opportunities.
Ali ajmo sada, Evropska unija, čekajte, pa neće valjda sada da neke druge zemlje mogu da uđu pre Evropske unije,
maybe some other countries will enter European Union before us and they did not meet criteria, for example, the way we did. So I do support you in everything and you will always have support of ours for the European integration process. The only thing I ask you is that you take care of how you treat Serbia concerning its territorial integrity.
Jer znate, ne mogu da ne kažem ništa kada vi govorite o tome da je moguće rušiti teritorijalni integritet Srbije.
When you say it is possible to violate the territorial integrity of Serbia, you know, I cannot remain silent on that. And you ask from us to respect the territorial integrity of all the countries in the world, which we do.
A kad je reč o drugim uticajima,
on other influences, you forget in which country we are now. Here, in this panel, we are in Turkey.
Ona hoće da ima uticaj.
Turkey wants to have influence, wants to be a strong regional actor.
Pa koji je lider SDA išao u Brisel, nego su dolazili u Istanbul?
So the leader of RSDA did not go to Brussels, but to Istanbul.
Prema tome, nije samo jedan
maligni ili one malignant influence. There are many malignant influences, so therefore I hold the view that we should not
nema zastupnika,
ja
mislim, drugog puta osim Evropske unije.
Yes, there is no other way than the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dačić. Any of other ministers, if wants to respond on the question on regional initiatives, Mr. Osmani, would you like to? And Mr. Konakovic, as you wish.
Shortly,
just let's keep it short so can we give a chance to the floor?
To reply, I mean, I don't know why Minister Dačić feels that he should respond to my claims that Russia has imperialistic ambitions and Ukraine is only the beginning. And therefore, it's crucial that we continue supporting Ukraine in order to win this just war. but also to maintain our strategic clarity in the Balkans, particularly in North Macedonia as a multi-ethnic country, as we are heading to elections. So both these two momentums are crucial: maintaining strategic clarity in Western Balkans, supporting Ukraine to win this righteous war, because, as I said, it's only the first station. It's Western Balkans will be the next one. And about territorial integrity, it's not mine to comment, but I think it's important to see the relevant decisions of International Court of Justice about the territorial integrity. Thank you.
First of all, I have to tell to my friend Ivica, I go to Brussels and to Istanbul at the same time, but it's impossible. It's possible. You know, it's advantage of my country. Our final destination is Brussels. We have excellent relations on East, with Turkey especially. We have many friends, but investors also, tourists in GCC countries and other parts of the world. And that's normal. That's not disadvantage. That's actually advantage. Regional market, regional cooperation is a really important issue, not only for us. I understand also the fear from EU side. They are, of course, following. They are not present probably here in this room, but they will know 5 minutes after this panel what every of us has said during this panel. Because for the first time, after a long time, they are really open and honest, and they gave concrete opportunities through this, like Bujar was explaining, package of support, and through some other issues and administrative advantages, not because of us, unfortunately because of Ukraine. Because of war of aggression in Ukraine, actually they woke up after that happened in Ukraine, and they realized that can happen in the heart of Europe. So that is the reason why they are more focused, they are now more concrete, they are really open and honest, but that's the advantage we need to take, we need to grab, because if it's repeated, and we all think the same, there is no substitution for European Union. And this regional market, we have Berlin's process ongoing. We have to implement one process and then to discuss any other process. That's actually opinion from my country. We need to implement Berlin's process. We have CEFTA, we have many other economical advantages so we can use, and we can show that we can cooperate together and we can be integrated all together into European Union. Can you imagine the fears from EU side, thinking about all misunderstandings in our history, and counting on veto right if we become a full member of EU community. So that's, of course, reasonable fear from their side. And we need to prove that we can cooperate, we can communicate, and that's one more reason to think these panels are good. They are sending good messages. And there are only two ways. You can go back into the history, talk about Roosevelt, Churchill, Stalin, all of them, Tito time, any other time, or you can talk about artificial intelligence, about the future, about the world is changing so fast after COVID, after all this digital industry growing so fast. Many opportunities on the table. I came back just from New Delhi, India. They're actually constructing daily 30 kilometers of their highway. They have 16 billion non-contact payments, the first in the world on the first place, because they actually use these digitalization opportunities. And we are talking about Churchill, Roosevelt, Stalin, and about our history with Turkey, with any other countries. Those two ways are on the table. So I'm in favor of the economical movements, and I think that's the EU. That's stability, that is security, but also the only economic opportunity we have. Ide trasa za autoput kad ona bude išla prema Sandžaku, koji je nama jako važan, kad bude išla preko Goražda, kad zadovolji interese i bosansko-hercegovačke strane, sorry for explaining, my friend, we don't have time to translate. Kad bude išla preko Goražda na Sandžak i povezala nas možda i sa Turskom, ide puni gas. Tako smo se i dogovorili, rekli ste da ne smeta. Preko Crne Gore isto.
Pa šta mi imamo protiv, mi tražimo već 10 godina autoput da se pravi do sada.
Vi ništa, ali ovi što su dolazili samo u Istanbul prije nikada to nisu tražili. Mi to tražimo.
Ne, ja nisam ni rekao da ti ideš u Istanbul, nego SDA.
I did not say that you go to Istanbul, but SDA. But I said that I go to Istanbul, both to Istanbul and to Brussels.
I have also first
A Bujar, ja
responder.
nisam pričao o imperijalnim, ti nisi rekao imperijalne politika
Bujar, you
Rusije
did
prema
not
Ukrajini, nego o imperijalnoj
say
politici Rusije.
imperial
Ja sam zato to pričao, da
policy.
mnogi imaju imperijalne.
You say, I said that many have imperial ambitions. When it comes to Ukraine, we did condemn the aggression. That's not the problem. But I think currently the imperial policy of Russia does not influence the position of North Macedonia. I think the imperial policy of some other in the region influenced the position of the North Macedonia regarding the accession negotiations as well. That's what I was saying, actually.
I have first responder here, George Skuteru. He is the CEO of New Strategy Center. Mr. Skuteru, please keep it short, as we would like to also get some questions from the audience.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nafisa. First of all, thank you very much to all of you for this very dynamic discussion. Indeed, Romania, like Turkey, also are part of the Balkans, and we are very interested to have a very stable area. And by the way, we have a common space. Black Sea and the Balkans area are influencing each other. And I have a question to you, Mr. Konakovic. And also I want to express my gratitude as Romanian to Mr. Osmani, because you have North Macedonian soldiers on Romanian Black Sea shore as Turkish pilots, and we are very grateful to Turkey for your support. That means Article 5, and that means NATO solidarity. And by the way, Your Excellency Ivaci Dacic, we hosted you 3 years ago at Timișoara together with Mr. Meleshkan in our conference, and I'm very happy to see you again. But my memories are about Russians, and in my family, another Romanian family, are not so good. And people on entire eastern flank, unfortunately, doesn't have so good memories or attitude regarding the Ruski Mir or Russian Mir and Russian benefits in our history and in our countries. The questions to you is how you perceive the influence of Russian hybrid warfare, and if you consider that Russia could trigger another crisis in the Balkans just to try to add another crisis and to put pressure harder on the West in this very difficult context of the aggression war against Ukraine. And because we have Sir Stor Pitch here, sir, you know very well what means a Russian disinformation campaign, including in UK, because unfortunately, a disinformation campaign could be so effective in London or in Bucharest, or a cyber attack in Belgrade or in Lisbon. How you perceive, from UK perspective, this hybrid warfare in the Balkans area, in this very fragile area of Europe? Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, George. If we can just
small
have very short
technical
answers.
intervention. There is no, I know that it was unintentional totally. There is no such adjective as North Macedonian. It's North Macedonia's military. It's just for clarification. Thank you.
Let's answer to George's questions, but briefly, please, Mr. Konakovic, do you want to start first?
We have so many disinformation in Bosnia and Herzegovina. More disinformation from Russian side is going to be a part of disinformation scene in Bosnia and Herzegovina. If Russia wants to prove that they are friends of this part of the world, they should strongly support our European path. And they should go publicly. They should say, okay, we understand, and we have politicians, friends there, like some representatives in Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, but that they should not block or to slow down our European path because of all these facts we were talking all day. And they are clean. Like, only path for the economy of our countries is strongly tied already. And we have, for the first time in last 15 years, readiness from EU side to open the door, to integrate our market into European single market. We are now, and just one more argument to share, I'm repeating this every time. Drivers from Western Balkans countries, yearly, all of us drivers, when we are traveling to European Union, are waiting 3,000 years on the borders of EU. Can you imagine that? 3 millenniums we are waiting for documents, paper for our export. And I was talking to Tanja Mišić from Serbian government. If we remove only this problem, if we organize some kind of green line, green fast line for our trucks, for our buses, it's going to be 1.5% effect on our GDP yearly. Can you imagine the advantage of European path for all our countries? That is what we're talking about. Churchill, I know even song in Russia, but I don't sing anymore Russian songs. Because in my primary school, it was Russian language. We were all taught. I was learning Russian language. So the new era, actually, we're talking about new age.
Thank you, Mr. Peach.
Everybody in the room, wherever you live, is affected by disinformation. The speed with which it is happening is really changing, as the Foreign Minister from Bosnia and Herzegovina has said. And I think all of us have a duty for the next generation, as well as the ones we're responsible for now, to counter this, because it creates perceptions based on false narratives, which then take people down a darker path. At the same time, we need to modernize through digitization and technology, and actually the regional approach, which you've heard from all the panelists, is something your international friends strongly support, to modernize and take advantage of the world as it is, not the world that we used to dream of. But I really thank you for the question. I think all of us need to take disinformation much more seriously, which means we, UK and other friends and allies of the region, are keen to help you. We're not experts. We have the similar problems in the UK, as you said, and we have similar problems across Europe. But this problem is growing faster than I think many audiences that I participate in realize, and we need to do something about it.
Any questions from the audience? We can take one or two. We don't want to Mr. Christian Schmidt would like to pose a question, a High Representative for Bosnia and Herzegovina. If someone can please hurry up with the microphone for Mr. Schmidt, as we don't want to take time from the lunch. I know it's coming right after this session. Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Latic. I do not want to have a too long waiting for the lunch, but I thank you for this very intense and good discussions. Somehow a little bit we could feel that there is some discussion necessary on the Balkan level, not only on the Balkan. But let me switch not to my actual position only, but to my experience as a European politician. Not being able to respond for European Union, but to say, indeed, Ivica Dacic, you are right in one point that as well European Union have to think about the way of approach of integration. This integration, which is our understanding, and both I and we have genetically in us, has been the answer of the disaster of World War II. And we committed ourselves, all the enemies and the warriors, that we sit together and keep peace, and this means reconciliation and concession, and not 100% there and 0% there. Sometimes I feel that this way of finding a compromise and accepting compromise is not yet really implemented in all places of Europe. So we should think about having a step-by-step approach. I may refer to Buja Osmani's proposals. Yes, I think we have indeed to make clear that to the younger generation all over, that this is part of Europe, not to doubt about it, but that we have a step-by-step approach, and there are some obstacles for the 100%. This includes, I have to address this, the high level of corruption, which we unfortunately see in a lot of parts of the Balkans being not yet brought down. This is an important issue. But I would say if we would wait up to the end of the acquis communautaire, a book of lot of laws and directives put together and fulfilled 100%, the young generation of the Western Balkans will have left. They will look on it not from Russia's side, they will look on from European member states, Union member states. So I think, and this is my request and my suggestion, to do a double-fold approach. The technical approach, but as well the approach for fast developments for young people especially. You can stay here, not here in Turkey, but you can stay in Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Northern Macedonia, and you will be partially part of European integration as well. This needs this commitment in the Western Balkans, but I'm pretty sure after European Union elections, when your commission will have, this is my, again I repeat, please accept, this is my personal experience position, not my public official position, my mandate. I think we have to revisit our approach and make it easier for a step-by-step approach. This includes that the access to negotiations should be easier, not the content will be easier. No doubt about this. No doubt about democracy and non-discrimination. But there is something European Union has to think about itself as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. We can take one question from the audience. Okay, a lady from behind. Let's get a chance to get more female voices. Please, microphone.
Hvala vam za ovu priliku. Miljana Vranić-Tanjug. Ja sam htjela da vas pitam sve zajedno. Ovako pričali ste o tome koliko dugo traje proces proširenja
for how long the enlargement process towards the European Union will last, and the candidate countries lose the trust in the European Union. And now, in what way can we explain to ordinary citizens and give them something to hold on, you know, so that the ordinary citizens can have benefits and hope and not to lose wish to enter the European Union? For Mr. Speech, question for Mr. Speech, in what context do you see the negotiations with the European Union and the position and negotiations concerning the dialogue between Belgrade and Pristina? How this will in the following period be improved? How can that progress so that Serbia becomes the member of the EU in the future very soon? Thank you.
Allow me to say this in our language, because Tanjuk probably will actually, vjerovatno ćete to objavljivati da vam olakšamo te prevode. Neka naši ljudi na Balkanu pogledaju primjere naših susjednih zemalja. Neka uzmu za primjer one zemlje koje su prošle sličnu tranzicijsku istoriju, koje su bile u vremenu komunizma poprilično stabilne u jednom bloku. I neka danas vide bruto društveni proizvod Rumunije, Bugarske, Slovačke, Češke, neka vide plate tih ljudi, plate tih ljudi i neka posebno vide utrostruko veći bruto društveni proizvod.
3 times higher GDP, which is the most important factor since the entry of the European Union, and then compare this with our economic development, because what the politicians do now with their false nationalism, this just, you know, fulfills the pockets of those.
I super ste postavili pitanje. To je
And this is
pitanje
a
koje
very
naša
good
javnost nikada
question.
skoro
This
ne
is the
govori.
question
Mnogo je
that
važniji
our
ovaj drugi
public,
dio, jer
our
ga političari tako
politicians
nametnu,
never
a
really
samo
mention
primjeri
or reply
zemalja, nek
on.
se niko ne ljuti, za koje smo mi
Please
bili
don't get
ekonomska
angry,
sila
but
prije 30
only the
godina.
examples of
I onoga što
countries
su oni danas za
for
nema
whom we
jednostavnijeg
used to be
odgovora na to
economic
pitanje. Hvala.
power in the past. Just compare them, compare their situation and our, and then.
We support, along with our international friends, the Belgrade-Pristina dialogue facilitated by the EU. The answer to the question as posed is for a multi-ethnic future and respect for each other. I speak as a British person to remind the audience that after really difficult years, 25 years ago, the two parties in Northern Ireland sat down and created the Good Friday Peace Agreement, and it stood the test of time. And that is a good lesson for reconciliation. And so it is about respect, it's about concessions, about negotiation, but most of all, it's about keeping going with dialogue.
Thank you, Mr. Peach. And I want to thank to all of you gentlemen for this discussion today. That was more Bal than Khan, Mr. Dacic. Thank you all for your insights. Thank you all for being here with us. As I can see, every year we need bigger and bigger room for the discussions on the Balkans, and I'm glad for that. Thank you, and see you again next time.